Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a truly fascinating piece of ancient literature known as Psalm 14. What's absolutely incredible about this text is just how much it accomplishes in such a short space. I mean, it literally takes us on a cinematic journey. We start in the deepest, darkest recesses of the human heart, pan all the way up to a cosmic, heavenly perspective, crash back down into the gritty realities of societal oppression, and then finally look out toward a horizon of ultimate hope and redemption. We're going to trace this whole arc together step by step, using the text itself to guide us. Let's get into it. Okay, let's kick things off with the text's famously provocative opening line. This immediately establishes our central character, the fool. And right out of the gate, verse 1 introduces us to this figure, not by telling us what they look like or what they do for a living, but by revealing their absolute deepest, unspoken conviction. They say in their heart, "There is no God." Now, notice that this isn't just some philosophical debate happening in a public square. The text specifically places this declaration in the heart. That means it's a core, internal posture that shapes literally everything else about this person. So, just to ground our analysis, here's the full text we're looking at from the English Standard Version. It's only 7 verses long. But notice that little attribution at the very top. To the Trier Master, of David. That tells us we aren't just reading a sterile academic essay. This is a lyric. It's a song, designed for communal performance and shared reflection. Seeing the whole text laid out like this really helps us appreciate the tight poetic structure David uses to weave together some incredibly heavy themes. All right, moving into section 1, the Declaration of Folly. We start our journey on the earthly plane, looking at the immediate, tangible consequences of the fool's internal mindset. And what's really fascinating here is how the text explicitly links that internal denial of God to an external reality of corrupt, abominable actions. The poem simply doesn't allow for any separation between what the fool believes in private and how they act in public. You see, the immediate follow-up to saying there is no God is a really stark assessment of behavior. They are corrupt, they do abominable deeds, there is none who does good. The internal void instantly manifests as outward moral decay. The text is making a profound claim here, right? Our hidden, internal postures inevitably bleed out into our external, lived realities. Let's shift gears and go to section 2, the view from heaven. Here's where we leave the internal mind of the fool entirely behind. In verse 2, the perspective just rockets upward. It positions the Lord as a universal observer, peering down to assess the state of humanity. It's a massive, sweeping shift in scale. We go from the hidden, microscopic view of a single human heart straight to the macroscopic, all-encompassing gaze of the divine. The Lord is looking down from heaven specifically on the children of man, essentially surveying the entire human landscape all at once. So what exactly is this universal observer looking for? Well, the text states he's looking to see if there are any who understand, who seek after God. But if we dig into the translation notes for this verse, specifically footnote A in the source, we find that understand can also be translated as act wisely. And wow, that is a brilliant, direct literary contrast to our opening character of the fool. The fool speaks folly in their heart and acts corruptly, while the divine observer is actively searching for the exact opposite, someone who possesses the understanding to act wisely and seek after God. But then, we see the results of that divine search in verse 3, and, well, it's not good. Notice how the language just piles up here. They have all turned aside. Together they have become corrupt. There is none who does good, not even one. The author uses this intense repetition and absolute phrasing for a reason. He wants to ensure the reader knows the corruption is total. The divine search for someone acting wisely comes up completely empty. It's a devastating, universal indictment. Which brings us right into section 3, evildoers versus the poor. Now the poem's camera zooms rapidly back down to earth, and we focus on the severe societal friction caused by all this universal corruption. We're moving from the theological diagnosis to the on-the-ground symptoms. The crucial point lands here in verse 4 as a sharp rhetorical question, introducing a really violent socioeconomic dynamic. Have they no knowledge, all the evildoers who eat up my people as they eat bread and do not call upon the Lord? The imagery here is incredibly visceral. The corruption we saw earlier isn't just some abstract rule-breaking. It takes the form of predatory human behavior. The oppressors consume the vulnerable as casually, as routinely as someone eating a piece of bread. You can see the stark contrast laid out right here. It highlights the conflict between the oppressive evildoers and the marginalized poor, showing exactly how this ancient text weaves economic oppression right together with spiritual failing. On the left side, we have the evildoers. Their defining traits are that they consume people and they do not call upon the Lord. Once again, action and belief are intimately tied. Then on the right side, we have the poor. The text says the evildoers would shame the plans of the poor. The poor are the victims of this societal corruption, completely marginalized and consumed by those holding the power. But then, check this out. The power dynamic suddenly flips in verses 5 and 6. Despite the evildoers' attempts to shame the poor, the text asserts that the oppressors are actually the ones in great terror. Why? Because as the text states, God is with the generation of the righteous. The oppressors might hold all the earthly power, but the Lord is the ultimate refuge for the poor. In fact, a translation footnote in the source points out this can also be read as, "For the Lord is his refuge," which really emphasizes the causal reason why the poor can withstand the shaming of their plans. Ultimate security, it turns out, doesn't lie in human schemes at all. It lies in divine protection.
Finally, we reach the conclusion of our arc in Section 4, A Plea for Salvation.
So after staring directly into the face of total corruption and systemic oppression, the poem simply refuses to end in despair. It transitions from observation and critique to a passionate, forward-looking plea for divine intervention. Verse 7 cries out, "Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion." It's like a deep sigh of longing. The author recognizes that if the corruption is truly universal, if not even one does good, then the solution absolutely cannot come from within humanity itself. The salvation has to originate from outside the corrupt system. It has to come out of Zion, which represents the dwelling place of God. And notice how the author outlines a very specific sequence for this ultimate resolution at the very end. It happens in a definitive order. Step 1, the Lord himself has to take action to restore the fortunes of his people. Step 2, this divine restoration naturally culminates in an outpouring of joy, let Jacob rejoice. And step 3, let Israel be glad. Think about that for a second. The poem that began with the isolated internal folly of a single individual ends with this beautiful vision of massive communal healing and celebration for the entire people. To wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with a provocative thought about the enduring human themes we've just unpacked from this fascinating piece of literature. We've seen how Psalm 114 inextricably links what happens in the quiet of the human heart to the grand scale of societal justice. It really begs the question, how does this ancient text challenge our modern understanding of the relationship between internal belief, moral corruption, and the societal treatment of the vulnerable? It's a powerful question, and one this ancient song demands we consider even today. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the rich depths of this incredible text.